Namaste and good evening. And to all the newcomers, a Happy New Year. Happy New Year again. Um, my name is Vasudha. Literally translated from Sanskrit, it means the earth goddess. So you can call me goddess for short anytime. I'm in a good mood today. Um, in Tamil, in the language that I grew up with, we say that it rains when there are good people who come to town. But this is ridiculous. I know you're all good, but how good can you get? But thank you very much. Life is rain-giving, rain is life-giving, and it's always great to get a good amount of it. In fact, in the Indian tradition, Lord Krishna is called Meghashama, dark as a rain-bearing cloud. And it gives life to the seeds which are dormant within us. And I'm sure the courses that you've come to attend, the programs that you audit and internalize and learn by heart will also make the seeds in your life come to life. I start with a book, a short book written by Swami Sivananda. Swami Sivananda has written a lot of works, and one of them is a biography of the Saint Ramanuja, a teacher who lived in the 11th century. And you can find the biography on the web, actually. This is what it looks like. And this teacher is also called a Vedanta teacher. That is, he interpreted the texts of the Upanishads, that's part of the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and also texts called the Brahma Sutras. And he came up with a wonderful philosophy like Shankaracharya. But what Swami Sivananda focuses on and highlights and speaks about with compassion and with eloquence is a particular incident in Ramanuja's life when he was young. It is said that Ramanuja desperately wanted to learn a mantra which was very sacred. This mantra we call the Ashtakshara, the 8-syllable mantra, that is Om Namo Narayanaya. Mantras are known by the number of syllables that they have. So Om Namah Shivaya is called the Panchakshara, has 5 syllables. Om Namo Narayanaya has 8, and Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya has 12. And depending on one's vibrations, depending on where one is in one's mental propensity, a different mantra is given to them. Ramanuja wanted to be initiated into a sacred mantra, and there was only one person who could give it to him. So he would go day after day, and Swami Sivananda recounts this with such love. And Ramanuja would go day after day after day to a teacher. 18 times over many years he went, and he was turned back. The teacher would say, come again another day, come again later, because he was testing Ramanuja. And finally, on the 18th day, Ramanuja appears because the teacher has told him, come alone with only the emblems of who you are as an ascetic. And he goes not alone, but with 2 of his trusted disciples, saying, they are my emblems, they are part of me. So the teacher teaches them the sacred mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya. Now, what's the big deal, you may ask? I'm putting it up here on the screen. We recite it every day. And yet, in the Hindu tradition, several teachings were esoteric for centuries. They would only be handed down to certain kinds of people, and only if they proved their worth. So when Ramanuja got this teaching, the teacher said specifically when he gave the mantra, I give this mantra to you under one condition, that you will never, ever, ever repeat this or teach it to anyone else, not share it with anyone else. So what did Ramanuja do? He turned around. This is the town, Tirukoshtiur. Went on top of the temple tower, that's the highest point he could get to. So all the people assembled down in the courtyard and shouted out the mantra to every one of them. The teacher was horrified and appalled. How could this disciple, who had promised not to reveal the sacred teaching, go up the very next minute and just put it on the PA system? And so he calls Ramanuja to him. And while I recount the story to you, it's best that you read Swami Shivananda's story yourself. So the teacher calls Ramanuja and says, "What gives? What's up, dude?" And Ramanuja says, "I know that I will go to hell for disobeying you. I know that's true. On the other hand, by hearing the sacred mantra, by listening to this, thousands of people will be saved, and that's fine by me." This, in a sense, when I knew the story, but when I read it in Swami Shivananda's account, it moved me again because I read it in the context of what I was going to say today. And to me, that brought out the essence of what is meant by the word bhakti or devotion, because it meant to share. And this sharing is done by millions of yogis around the world. In the 13th century, a text said, "Yogis are born in various wombs. They have direct vision of the Supreme One, who is their Lord, and the Lord of all souls. We should not delve into the details of their clan or their birth." So in the 13th century, this man said, do not look to see who a person is, where he or she comes from, what the details of the past are. Yogis come from different places, and they have a direct vision, or they have the propensity for the direct vision. And they will share this knowledge because that's what they're born to do. And it is, in fact, our fortune that such yogis were not just in the 12th and 13th century with Ramanuja. We see them in the 20th century. We see them in Swami Shivananda, Swami Vishnudevananda, who go to places where no man has gone before. Okay, so I borrowed it from Star Trek. But really they go to places breaking the rules, pushing the boundaries to teach us. And that is bringing in compassion with wisdom. One without the other, as we know, is useless. It's the combination of the wisdom and the compassion that makes them the true teachers, people whom we can trust, people whom we can listen to. And so the 5 points that were brought out in the teaching, to serve, to love, to give, to purify, to meditate, and ultimately to realize this is at the heart of bhakti, this is the heart of devotion, this is the way, and this is the goal. So what is bhakti and what is Bhakti Yoga? Swami Vishnudevananda has brought us all here so we enjoy this ocean of devotion out here literally on the Paradise Island. And this evening, in a very brief context, we'll be discussing the terms, the concepts, and the experience of bhakti, devotion, sharing with love and compassion and wisdom, and Bhakti Yoga. Are they synonymous? Are they different? How are we to behold them? We start with a classical context in the text of Bhagavad Gita. Many of you know the Bhagavad Gita very well. Others may be familiar with it in a more light way. The Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters. It's a text that's found within the context of a larger epic called the Mahabharata. It's just 18 chapters, and it's a conversation between two people, Krishna and Arjuna. And in this, Krishna is the charioteer, the blue-skinned lord, and Arjuna is the back. Arjuna literally means white. And Arjuna is the person who's going to fight the battle. Krishna is the charioteer. The poem starts, or the book itself starts with a question, with the phrase, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre. In this field of dharma, in this battlefield of Kuru, what happened? So right away, right from the first verse, the question is raised, is this a real battle? Or is this one which is an internal battle? And the teachers are ambiguous about both. They say, yes, both. It's a real battle that happened outside in the context of the story, but it's also an internal battle. What is the outside battle? The outside battle is in the Mahabharata, where two people, two sets of cousins, the good guys and the bad guys. Okay, we'll just be simple about this for now. The Kauravas, the 100 brothers, are fighting with Pandavas, the good brothers, the 5 good brothers who inherited the land. The Kauravas are trying to do the Pandavas out of their share of the kingdom. So they're fighting for this kingdom. The armies are lined up. And at that point, Arjuna, one of the main heroes of the story, looks at Krishna and says, hey, I don't want to fight this battle. What's the use of fighting the battle when I'll be killing the people who mean so much to me? I could win the war and lose everything in my life. And Krishna then proceeds to answer Arjuna's doubts. This conversation is the Bhagavad Gita, the sacred song, or the song of the sacred one. And Krishna goes on to say about the eternal life of the soul, the immortality of the soul, the immortality, the ineffable nature of the Supreme One, and the different ways in which the human soul can become one, can realize the supreme power, be enlightened, understand and recognize that power within us, and how we live in this universe. So that's the conversation. So how can we reach the Supreme Being? There are 3 ways that are pointed out. 1, Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? Karma means, yes, the path of action. Karma is action. More often we use it as the result of action, the result of the good deeds and the bad deeds. So whatever we do comes back to haunt us. Or we experience the good stuff. Ideally, we shouldn't have either good karma or bad karma. Because good karma, in the words of a 13th century teacher in India, good karma is like golden handcuffs. It's good stuff. So you'll be born as a millionaire, you enjoy life, you have a great life, you have everything at your disposal. So what's wrong with that? Well, it doesn't last. That's the problem. Less than a lightning flashes our lives, and those pleasures are even more brief. So good karma, however good it is, if you do it with the intention of saying, hey, what a good boy am I, well, you lose the benefit of it because you get the good benefits, but it's not the supreme goal. It's not bad. So if you bake bread, bake it because it's in the rightness of things to do so. If you do yoga, do it because it's the rightness to do so, not because by helping that little old person who's me across the road, you get the Volunteer of the Year award. It's not bad, but it gets you bad karma. And the more your karma, the more desire that you have, that you try to appease, you say, hey, it doesn't harm anyone, it doesn't, but it may harm you. So the ideal, according to the Bhagavad Gita, is to act. It's not to sit here and to say, hey, you know what, I don't have any control over my life, so I'm just kind of like drop out and go off to the Himalayas and meditate on my navel. That's nice, but Krishna says act. Act, and act without fear of punishment or hope of a reward. It's in that that you find the freedom to act. It's in that that we let loose ourselves from our misery. Because the minute we're acting, and we're constantly acting because we have to act. Because if we don't do it, there are consequences. It's bad stuff and good stuff. But if you let go that fear of punishment and hope of a reward, you get one step closer to getting rid of all the yuck that you've accumulated over the years, all the karma. That's one way. But it's not a single way. It may be connected with the way of jnana or wisdom. And wisdom in itself can also lead you, for those who want, to the supreme bliss. The idea of all of this is to say no person is like the other. And so it's not a cookie cutter model saying this way or not at all. There are multiple propensities, and you can pick and choose whatever you want. What is the way of wisdom? It says that the supreme power is ineffable. It's beyond words. It's beyond our concept. Yato vacho nivartyanti aprapya manasasaha. That's what the Upanishad says. There the mind does not, there the words do not go. It's beyond the grasp of your mind. So it's not like a rabbit thinking that God is a big rabbit. Or that's not me, it was Emerson who said it. Or a turtle thinking that God is a big turtle. Or someone who said that an Englishman's version of God is an Englishman 6 feet tall. God is ineffable, beyond our words, beyond our thinking. It's everything you can think of plus. And that supreme being is the universe and transcends these multiverses. 2 days back, we spoke about the two kinds of knowledge, the lower and the higher. The lower is the path by which we know cognitively what we speak about, what we use words for, what we are focusing on right now to conceptualize, to contain, and to therefore communicate. And this lower knowledge is the Vedas too. It's the knowledge of the universe. And you can see how tiny we are. That little arrow there says, you're right here, dude. You're right there. And yet we know that you are all that you have. And that you have to realize this on your own with the help of those good people around you. So the answer in the Upanishads to the question, what is it that being known, all else becomes known? What is it that being known, all else becomes known? Is there one knowledge that you can have, the one infinite wisdom, that when you get it, when you get that enlightenment, poof, you know it. And the answer in the Upanishads is, atha parayaya tadaksharam adigamyate. That is, the higher knowledge is that through which the imperishable is known. So by the path of knowledge, jnana yoga, one can get to the supreme. The path may be hard. It may not be for everyone. It contains of several steps, shravana, listening, manana, to think about it, to ask questions. We're all rational human beings. We are here to question. If something doesn't make sense, question, ask. No one is asking you to take things just completely on faith. At some point, though, you have to let go. Ask these questions, think, clarify your doubts, manana, nididhyasana. Focus, meditate long and hard. And the last is the fruit, that is the sakshat anubhava, the brahmanubhava, the experience of the Supreme, the total, complete, that experience which cannot be spoken about, which is beyond human thinking. When the Buddha was asked, it is said, what is nirvana? He said, it's like a, it's like a frog trying to explain to a shoal of tadpoles what dry land is. Because the only medium of reference, of existence, that the tadpoles know is water. So you can go on saying, well, you can't float on dry land, you can't drink dry land, it's not liquid, until such point that a tadpole thinks that the frog is talking about something imaginary, it doesn't exist, because it doesn't come within your frame of reference. And so too is this experience of the imperishable. To get there, one has to experience it. And why are we here? To get there one step closer, to open up our hearts, to open up our minds. Through the control of our minds and our bodies, we open ourselves up to the universe, to the pervading and the powerful force of love, which is the most important one. And that yoga that you practice in many different ways opens you up to everyone else. The Bhagavad Gita says that this control of one's senses, just like a turtle withdrawing its limbs, one is established in perfect, steady knowledge. You know, I read this verse over and over again over all my life, never understood what it meant until last month. I was in a restaurant in Rajasthan, and as I was eating, I was sitting there with my family, I saw two turtles come by. I swear these were the turtles I saw there. And one of them was sitting there, and both of them had its limbs out, and within a few minutes when I went to see it, the second one kind of drew all its limbs in. Can you see the second one? And that's when I realized how a turtle withdraws its senses. So when you go back to the verse and see that a person who's on the path of jnana, on the path of wisdom, withdraws his or her senses, controls it, is within, is self-contained. That's what it meant. I needed the vision, the physical vision, to understand that. The third path is that of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti, the path of devotion. And in the Bhagavad Gita, they say, having restrained the senses, even-minded everywhere, intent on the welfare of all beings, they come to me. The crucial word here is all beings. In that is contained a whole lot. It's not just human beings, it's all beings. Over and over again, in the Sanskrit text and in vernacular text, they keep repeating it, all beings, sarva bhutesh. Why? Because all beings have life forms. They have that propensity for wisdom. There's a line that I read somewhere in the Vedas, and then the plants became joyful. Just gave a new kind of connotations to it. And when I saw that the tree that blooms with a little star on that, it kind of made me remember that, and the plants were joyful in the rain. But this may take time. This kind of bhakti, in which we cultivate that restraint, may take time. The yamas, that is, the restraints that we go through, yama, niyama, these are all parts of the Eightfold Yoga. The yamas are non-violence. And the Mahabharata says, this is the highest of all dharmas. Ahimsa is the highest dharma, non-violence, in thought, word, and deed. It says, adroha sarva bhuteshu karmana manasa gira. Anugraham syadanam syas, it is dharmam sanatanam. That is, ahimsa, non-violence, generosity, and lack of malice to all, and compassion to all. This is the essence of the Sanatana Dharma. Truthfulness. And that means no half-truths, no except in the cause of non-violence. The classical example in Buddhism has always been, if you're sitting there and the deer runs in front of you, 2 minutes later comes a guy with a big rifle and asks you, where did the deer go? Should you tell the truth or should you practice non-violence? If you don't know the context, non-violence trumps truthfulness. Non-stealing. And non-stealing means not stealing, not physically, that's taken for granted, but not taking other people's dignity, not taking their integrity, not diminishing them. We're all guilty of and all victims of what they call microaggressions. Day in and day out, people tell you little things, supposedly in a nice way, but which diminishes you ever so much. Wash it off. Rise above it like a lotus above the yuck and the slush. And do not be guilty of the same microaggressions towards others. That way, we do not steal from the others. And most important for everyone, non-excess in food, moderation in food. Moderation not just in food, but in everything. Where do we draw the line? The Hindu philosophy has been very generous, so to speak, in talking about the goals of a human being. It says every human being has 4 goals: dharma or righteousness, morality, goodness. We all want goodness to happen. We all want artha, wealth and power, and that's okay, it's not wrong. We all want kama, or sensual pleasure of some kind, whether it is sexual or even a hot bath. We want that, a little bit of that sensual pleasure. And that's okay in moderation. That's the key word. And then in a class by itself is moksha, or liberation. So where do things go wrong? Where do things start going wrong? Because we don't know where to draw the line. So if one car is okay, a better car, a higher cost car is even better. A Mercedes is good. If a Mercedes is good, 5 of those Cadillacs is even better. And we are feeding the conflagration of our excesses right there, the karma. A beautiful story is told to illustrate this question of where do we draw the line. We all know about Alexander the Great. A story is told that towards the end of his life, Alexander was kind of undergoing mental decay. He was going back from his march into India and marching back with his contingent of soldiers, the entire army behind him. He had conquered all of the known world by then. And as he was passing Aryan, the historian says, northwest India, but it's probably the area that we call Afghanistan now, he saw a series of yogis, ascetics, standing there, and all that they were doing was stomping their feet. They got up like this, and they were just like, stomping their feet. And he asked them, what's going on? Why are they stamping their feet? And the yogis were silent. They would continue to stomp their feet. And then one of them, who had not taken this vow of silence, said, Alexander, you have caused much misery to the world. Who, me? Yes, you. All that I wanted to do was conquer the world, and I've done it. I am powerful, so where have I gone wrong? Well, you have caused misery wherever you've gone. You've conquered the entire world. Oh yes, all the known lands, he said. Everything is under my dominion. The whole world, I rule it. And the yogis stomp their feet again and again. Why, he said, and they said, you fool, all that you need are, is the land that's under 2 feet below you. That's all you need. You only need the land that your 2 feet are standing on. You don't need more. When you die, if your religion wants to bury you, that's all the land that you need. You don't need the entire earth. You just need those 2 feet of land that your feet are standing on right now. And instead of having that, being content with that, you have raided the whole world, killed millions of people, raped millions of women. For what? And all that we need are those 2 feet of land, metaphorically. And yet we need more all the time. And we crave for more. The word is trishna, the craving, the conflagration. And so that's where we, in our craving for more and more possessions, have outsourced our happiness to other people, to what they think of us because of what we own. And we have outsourced our sense of ourselves to the others. And we have to take that back to us to understand who we are. And every one of us is learning in that. So the next time I go and I want that extra serving of chocolate mousse, okay, not the chocolate mousse, let's go with an easier example. Okay, I mean, okay, that's a bad one, okay? I want that second helping of a chocolate mousse. So let's go with an easier one. Let's think about it and see whether we really need that. So we have the 8 restraints or parts of yoga, which you will be learning cognitively, theoretically, and in time all of us learn all of this experientially. Morality, personal observances, body postures, breathing exercises, and as we know, control of the senses, concentration, dhyana, the devotion, the concentration which Ramanuja said should be like an unending, continuous flow of oil. And finally, the union, the union with the divine. How does bhakti fit into this? This morning, I heard about Swami Sivananda, what he had said about 2 kinds of bhakti. Bhakti, the process, and bhakti, the goal. Ultimately, the state of devotion can be the goal, but there's a process to it and many kinds of devotion. One kind of devotion is what we saw here with Bhakti Yoga, which may be hard to cultivate, but which takes time. There are other kinds of devotion too. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord Krishna says, anyone who offers a leaf, a fruit, a flower, anything to me, I'm happy with that. Translate that to your traditions that you come from, that the smallest of offerings, or better, every action that we do, when it's offered with the intention of devotion. The prayer that we say in the concluding part of these chants, Kayena vacha manasendriyeva buddhyatmanava prakrite swabhavat. Whatever I think, whatever I say, whatever I do, whatever my body does, because of its natural functions, even if I don't control it, karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai, whatever I do, Narayanayeti samarpayami, I submit to God. So that little intentionality, the intentionality of doing things for the higher good, or for just thinking, I renounce the fruit of this action. I submit this to the higher power. I do it for the betterness of things. That intentionality, that thought is like a yogurt culture, which can transform a whole bowl of milk into yogurt. Just a drop of it, and it can change it. And so the drop of bhakti can change your whole action, your whole life, just like when you cook food and you serve it, it's food. But if you offer it to the divine, or you think of it as nourishment and then give it with a divine purpose, it's prasada, it's holy food. A vacation can become, with a little bit of bhakti, a pilgrimage. And so that intentionality is important. And there are 9 kinds of bhakti. We won't have time to speak about all of them, but just a couple. Shravana, to hear about the divine. Kirtana, to sing, to think about Vishnu, to serve the feet. Archana, worship. Vandana, to venerate. Dasyam, to serve. Friendship. And finally, the submission of your soul to the Supreme. Shravana, we all listen to the sacred chants. We recite it. That is good, because the recitation and the vibration of the chants, that itself brings about bhakti. That's a manifestation of bhakti and is conducive to more bhakti. People listen raptly, and that is changing their minds. When you sing, especially when you sing with abandon, when you dance and you sing and you hear the sacred words, any language, I don't have to be a Christian to enjoy the Hallelujah chorus. I can stand there and I can sing with the best of them. When you sing with them. And Shankara, in the 7th, 8th century, the great teacher whom we venerate, it is said, went to Varanasi, Benares. He saw an old man there learning to recite grammatical rules. And he said, this guy ought to be focusing on the divine, singing about the divine. Sing. And he sang, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Sing about the God. When you die, he said, Nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane. When you die, at the time of death, all the rote learning you've done, all the little learning you've done through life, that's not going to stay with you. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. It's a beautiful song. And to some extent, I feel that personally, because when I was young, when I was about 16, 17, I had all these questions on the universe. Why am I here? What am I doing? Where are we going? And I wrote them down. And I thought, I'll find the answers. And I went to the books and I studied religion. I studied comparative religion. I went to the different universities. I got degrees. I teach it. I enjoy it. But unless you have internalized it, unless you have done the yoga, you've done the bhakti, unless you go through that experience, you're not going to get it. The rote learning is not going to be there. Nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane. The grammatical rules are not going to be there. There's a beautiful phrase. I don't know how many of you read science fiction. Not too many. There's an old book called Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke, in which there's people coming in from outer space to help us into the next stage of evolution. And those people themselves cannot get into the next stage of spiritual evolution. And the book, the author calls them barren midwives. That is, they can help other people, but they cannot have children. And so sometimes the rote learning is compared to that. That is, you can go on doing it, but it's not going to help you get anywhere. But singing the glory of the name, whatever name you want, singing these names, hearing that music, vibrating to that music, that is part of bhakti. And resounding with that bhakti, dancing to that bhakti, you become that. Vishnu Smaranam, thinking of Vishnu, thinking of the Lord who's omnipresent, and the goddess who's inseparable from him. Vishnu simply means all-pervasive, and Lakshmi is the goddess of auspiciousness. So thinking of what is good, that is what is being meant here. Padasevanam, Archanam, that is to worship, to venerate in multiple ways, with flowers, with lamps, worshipping here at the altar, worshipping in the temple, And in fact, why do we worship in a temple? Why do we need a temple there? Why do we need that sacred space? The Supreme Being, according to one Hindu philosophy, is in 5 forms. It is in heaven. It's on the sea of milk out in the universe. It is all pervasive. The universe is the form of the Supreme Being. It's in every drop of the universe, every atom. It's in your heart. It comes down in incarnation as avatara. It comes as an incarnation as Rama, as Krishna, as anyone else. And finally, the 5th form is that which you find in a temple, Archavatara. The Archavatara is that which is worthy of worship. Especially when that icon is consecrated, it becomes a palpable manifestation of divinity on earth. It is not material goods, it's just not rock or stone, it's a piece of heaven on earth, just like how it came as an incarnation, as Rama or Krishna or various times. This is an incarnation in a temple worthy of worship. That temple is divine space. And that temple is in no way lesser or greater than what's in your heart. So the deity in the temple is said to be the same as the divinity in your heart. An 8th century poet said it beautifully. He went to all the different temples in Kanchipuram and then he said, Andranaan pirandilain pirandapin marandilain nindrandum irandadum kirandadum en nenjulle. This is in the Tamil language. I was not born then, but after I was born, I never did forget that he stands, reclines, the Lord abides in my heart. So it's not different from the deity outside. So build a temple in your heart, but help build a temple outside. When that temple icon is consecrated, it is God on earth, just like this God within every one of us. When that temple icon is consecrated, it becomes worthy of worship. And at that point, you do not think of it as stone. Just as when you wake up through your spiritual practices, you cannot think of me or the other person as flesh and blood. That is divinity. That's how you recognize them. The last few of bhakti, dasyam, servitude. You always think of God in your heart, and that's how we see Hanuman out here, as God in his heart, and as serving. Serving others is supposed to be the best form of service, the best form of getting karma. Dasyam is to serve. And look at our kitchen here. Look at the place where we eat. We have the lotus flowers. And they are encouraging us in 2 ways. Yes, we do bhakti. Because we are human, we ask for earthly benefits. It's not wrong. But remember, they're golden handcuffs. Hopefully, we can break out of those handcuffs and get to the higher kind of happiness. There are 2 kinds of auspiciousness according to a 12th century teacher. The lower path, which is auspicious, and the goddess Lakshmi gives you that money, the wealth. Shankaracharya himself wrote a poem to Lakshmi, asking for the blessings of riches to a poor lady. And that's fine, but he didn't want it. He walked away from it. But Lakshmi, as you see, is seated on the lotus flower. She is called Padmavati because she is seated on the lotus flower. And every one of us is practicing that purity. Because the lotus flower, ultimately born of the lotus flower comes out of slush but is not touched. The word Pankaja, coming from born of slush, is a name of Lakshmi. But she is not tainted by that slush. So too, when we sit in our Padmasanas, when we sit in that lotus posture, remember that every one of you, every one of us is the lotus. And we should transcend whatever yuck or muck or slush we see around us and rise above it like the lotus flower. Thank you. I end with a note of gratitude. I started the lecture with the story of Swami Sivananda's narration of Ramanuja. So Ramanuja and Vishnu Devananda, the Swamis were gracious enough to impart that wisdom to the masses. And that is something to be grateful for. Adi Shankara started the lineage that we see here. And that lineage continues. It continues through the teachings and through the work of so many of the people here. So other people can also get to that paradise. And for that, all of us are grateful, and I would like to express my personal thanks. There's a line in the Ramayana, Kritecha pratikartavyam esham dharmam sanatanam. To repay a good deed with another good deed, that is the essence of the Sanatana Dharma. So it's good to say thanks, it's good to express thanks, but it's even better to go out and to remember to repay that good deed by doing good elsewhere. To pass on that goodness and to pass on that gratitude by being kind to others, just as how people have shown hospitality here with love in this ashram. Thank you.